What's up, guys? I can't believe it. We're talking about a 116K Bitcoin dip, right? Remember when we were talking about what we're going to do when Bitcoin hits 100K and all this other stuff? And here we are talking about a $116,000 dip. That is the dip. It's awesome. Sorry guys, I just took a shower with some new soap and I don't think I like it. A new type of soap, a new kind of soap, new brand for me. I think I'm having a reaction to it, but we'll see if I survive the stream. Today, the topic is how to stack a killer savings plan. No, how to make a killer savings plan to skyrocket your savings. Spoiler alert, you guys already know what it is. Oh my gosh. Trying to get that clickbait up, guys. That clickbait going. All right, here we go. Let's kick things off with some shout outs. Round of applause from the live studio audience. Going out to Mr. Carl Black. He's got a new phone, so he's getting the alerts now. Congratulations, that's awesome. That's much appreciated. Make sure that you have all of your Bitcoin stuff in order. Sometimes people that are doing storage on their phone, they're doing like a hot wallet on their phone. When they get their phone upgraded, they usually will say, "Oh yeah, we'll move all your apps for you," right? But a lot of the times, moving those apps does not include restoring your wallet. So I hope you have your seed phrase, because if you don't, you could have lost your stuff. Okay, make sure you have your seed phrase with you before you get a phone upgrade, because a lot of the times they'll get the new phone, it'll have the apps installed, and then they take your old phone, right? And at that point, once they take your phone, you have no recourse of getting it back and trying to get your wallet, access your wallet again, right? It'll look like you have the app installed on your new phone, but when you open it, it'll ask you if you want to start a new wallet or restore from a seed phrase, and then you will be SOL if you don't have your seed phrase. 1 million sats, what up? Round of applause from a live studio audience for 1 million sats. Yeah, dude, still stacking like crazy. We are 2 years, 1 month, and 15 days into our stacking journey on our way to one whole Bitcoin. We're getting close to 0.4 Bitcoin right now for the stack. But we're still doing it, dude. Every weekday, Monday through Friday, stacking at least $20 a day, and having a blast, right? Don't be fooled by our audience, by our numbers. We've been stacking like crazy. We're like at episode 400 and what? Episode 452, right? But I haven't been doing that much recorded content where it's just like short videos. It's mostly all live streams. So it's difficult to I guess, grow an audience that way. Recently, we started doing more pre-recorded videos, and the subs have been picking up. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to grow an audience from scratch, especially since I focus on strictly Bitcoin. I don't do any trading. I don't do any yield products. No NFTs. No ETFs. It's strictly pure Bitcoin, 100%. Buy Bitcoin, take custody of the Bitcoin, and live your life. That's the plan here. So it could get a little boring, right? I say the same stuff over and over again, but if somebody's new to Bitcoin, I want them to find this show and not get tricked into buying all this other random stuff that you can easily get sidetracked on when you first start your Bitcoin journey, right? Yeah, cool. All right, here we go. Let's kick the show off, and we'll talk about how to make a killer savings plan to skyrocket your savings at the middle of the show. But first, let's kick things off with the first segment of the show. As always, the Bitcoin strength. That's right. Today, the price of Bitcoin is dipping down to $116,614.99. You can buy, let me move my face out of the way a little bit. You can buy 857 Satoshis for a single dollar. What the heck is a Satoshi? A Satoshi is a fraction of a Bitcoin, just like a dollar is made up of 100 cents. A Bitcoin is made up of 100 million Satoshis. Why is that important? Well, because it should show you that you don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin all at once to start enjoying the benefits of owning some Bitcoin, right? You can start with as little as $1. That'll buy you 857 fractions of a Bitcoin. And those fractions of a Bitcoin, those Satoshis, have the same properties as a whole Bitcoin does, right? It's still going to shield that value from inflation. So you can start slow and a little bit at a time, $1, $10, $100, whatever you feel comfortable with as you increase your knowledge about Bitcoin, how it works, and how the money system works, right? Once you become more and more comfortable with it, more convicted on it, you will start to understand and realize that the best way to save is to save in Bitcoin. Nothing else beats it. And I'll show you with some real numbers here that we've been doing here for the show for the past 2 years, 1 month, and 15 days, like I said earlier. Okay? All right. So looking at the price of Bitcoin, you might be thinking to yourself, dang, I'm priced out. I can't afford a Bitcoin. It's $116,000. Where am I going to get that kind of money? Well, that's the beauty of it. You don't save it. You don't save up to buy Bitcoin. You don't save up to buy Bitcoin. You save in Bitcoin. And that's what we show you how to do here on the show every weekday. So subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button and let's show you what happens if you're walking down the street minding your own business. You look down, you see a penny, you pick it up, and all the day that penny right now could buy you 8 Satoshis. Damn. Well, 8.5 fractions of a Bitcoin. That's how much you can buy for a single penny. When we started the show, we're buying 40 Satoshis for a single penny. We're buying 4,000 Satoshis for a single dollar. And now look at that. The purchasing power of the dollar compared to Bitcoin has gone down so much that now you can only get 857 Satoshis compared to the 4,000 Satoshis we're getting at the beginning of the show on May 22nd, 2023. Okay. So that alone should be like an alarm in your head. Be like, whoa, what's happening there? What's going on? Why is that happening? It's because the value of the dollar the purchasing power of the dollar continues to decrease. Okay. And let's talk about that in the next section real quick. Get these out of the way. So if you're new to Bitcoin, this is specific information for you if you're new to Bitcoin. Okay. If any of this stuff is confusing, and it should be a little bit confusing because there's a lot to grasp if you're new to it, ask your questions in the comments here during the live, or leave a comment if you're watching replay, and I will answer your question on a following up episode, or I'll even make a whole video for it to answer your question, because this is an important foundation of your Bitcoin journey. Okay. Let's go into the why we stack for the beginners. Okay. Why we stack. This is basically the orange pill portion of the show. What is an orange pill? Basically means that you take the orange pill and you start to understand what the money is, what the dollar system is. It's a way to enslave you economically and keep you working your whole life and have nothing in the end, so that in essence they turned you into an economic battery, right? By the end of your life, with all the work you've done, you should be able to show something for it. But the way the money's set up right now, you won't be able to, right? They're debasing the value of your savings in dollars at a rate of about, close to 10%, maybe even more. Okay. And as that happens, the value of your savings keeps going down and down and down. Okay. It's how they are able to spend without having to take it to the voters. Okay. To make it a little bit easier to understand, here's a quick little concept for you. I'm going to do a little screen share of this meme. Oops. Imagine working 9 to 5 for 50 years. Then the Fed prints 40% of the total money supply and inflates away 20 years of your hard work. Okay? It's crazy. It's crazy. And this meme might even be out of date, right? In 50 years, they're going to inflate away more than 40% of your savings. I'll tell you that much. Okay? What do you do to protect yourself from this? What can you do? You can't go and tell any president or any government to stop printing money, right? You can't go and tell the Fed to stop printing money. You can't stop that. It's out of your control. The only thing that is in your control is where you allocate that value to, where you save the value of your earnings, right? And by moving it into Bitcoin, an asset class with a fixed supply, you're no longer susceptible to inflation, right? And that naturally alone will keep the purchasing power of your savings. And since more people are starting to discover it now, and they're starting to understand that Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation, demand goes up. And as demand goes up, we can't make more supply to accommodate that demand. So the price must go up. And what that'll end up doing is, in the span of the same time you've been saving in dollars or saving in a 401k or whatever, the value of your savings, like this guy said, 50 years later, will be a lot more than what you put in, right? And you'll be able to see that here in our show when we go to the stack recap. Just what we've been doing in the span of 2 years, we've pretty much doubled our money already, right? Just by saving in Bitcoin, not having to do anything else. So that's why you should consider saving in Bitcoin. That's why you should consider learning about Bitcoin, right? And to keep it short and sweet and to the point. Why do we save in Bitcoin? We save in Bitcoin because saving in Bitcoin is like traveling back in time and giving yourself a perpetually increasing retroactive raise for the hours you've already worked for as long as you hold the Bitcoin that represents those hours. That's why we stack. That's why we stack, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we stack. Super simple. All right. Bringing it back to the the main show. Let's talk about how to set up, how to make a killer savings plan to skyrocket your savings. Okay, super simple. Throw a little background music on first. See if there's any questions in the comments. Hit me up, and let's get this part of the show running. Okay, it's a little bit about what we talk about every day here on the show, right? When we save in Bitcoin, it's like a cheat code, right? So far here on the show, we've saved in Bitcoin for about, like I said, 2 years, and we've grown about 100% on our savings. And what does that even mean? Well, it means that we're able to double the amount of our savings by not having to do anything else. I didn't have to work extra hours or do anything else besides what I already did to earn that initial value, right? And that's only been about 2 years, and we've already doubled that, right? What do you think will happen down the road? And I'm not saying a guarantee that Bitcoin will continue to go up, but the price of Bitcoin, part of the reason that Bitcoin goes up is a reflection of the dollar, right? And then they were going to stop printing. So in terms of dollars, Bitcoin is always going to go up. That's pretty much certain, right? Because no government, Republican or Democrat, are going to not take advantage of the money printing functions, right? Money printing is why they get elected, right? They promise to print money for different reasons, and whoever has the most money that can pay for them to get elected to print money for their reasons, that's who wins the election, right? So super basic. Doesn't matter who's in office, they're all gonna print, and when they print, they debase your savings. Okay, how do we fix that? We save in Bitcoin. Okay, saving in Bitcoin kind of flips it on them, right? Now, whenever they print, they're actually making you more wealthy. If your wealth is outside of the dollar system and is in Bitcoin, right? They're making everybody else poorer, but now you're taking advantage of that hedge, right? It's pretty wild. It's pretty crazy the way it works. So, how do we get started? Well, you can start simple. You can do $1 a day, $10 a day, $100 a week, a month, whatever you feel comfortable with, and you'll start to save a little bit of Bitcoin, and then you'll see the Bitcoin sitting there in your wallet. And let's say you don't even get to like $500 worth of Bitcoin, but you'll already start to see it, right? As the time goes by and the dollar continues to devalue, to lose purchasing power, you'll notice that your savings denominated in dollars are going up, right? And that alone is kind of inspiring. It makes you want to save even more, because you think to yourself, dang, 2 years ago I put away $100 and now it's worth almost $500. Dang, I wish I would have put in more at the beginning. And that is the beginning of it. That is you coming up and starting to realize that the only mistake you made when you put in $100 into Bitcoin 2 years ago was not putting more than $100, right? And then you go crazy and you start figuring out, okay, why can't I save more now? So you start saving more, right? The next thing you know, you look up and you're like, God dang, I've been saving all this saving for like a year, not even that long, a year or two. If you can make it through 4 years, it's even better, right? But you'll start to see the difference right away. It's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah. So that's a question to the answer. That's the answer to the question we posed in the title today. How to make your killer savings plan. You start saving in Bitcoin. You pick a schedule. You say, I'm going to put in $1 a day, or $10 a day, or $20 a week, $100 a week, right? You pick a frequency. That's your frequency. And you pick an amount. How much you're going to do, how much in dollar terms are you going to put into savings, into Bitcoin, and you stick with it. You stick with it regardless of the Bitcoin price. When you see Bitcoin in the news that it's crashing, when you see Bitcoin in the news that it's going up and it's get a new all-time high again, it doesn't matter to you. You stack your frequency and you stack your amount. Yeah, sometimes, like we do here on the show, I'll stack a little bit extra when it dips beyond a certain amount, right? Like in this case, our average buy price for 2025, but our average buy price for 2025 is so high that we probably won't even do for a double buy in a while. Our average buy price for 2025 here on the show is 97,000. If it dips down to 97,000, you bet your butt I'm gonna stack harder, right? But anyway, it's up to you. But you always want to do your minimum, regardless of the price. And if you can continue to do that and stick to your frequency and stick to your amount, or maybe increase your amount as you get educated about Bitcoin and you start to understand it more and more, you're gonna have a killer savings. You're gonna see your savings skyrocket, right? But now I'm gonna show you exactly how it works. Okay, that's the plan, right? Once you buy the Bitcoin, you stack it. Once you have like 0.01 or 0.001, some people like to do, then you want to transfer that Bitcoin that you've been saving on your exchange to a cold storage device. Okay, and we can talk about those later if you guys need that information, right? But you take it off the exchange. Once you take it off the exchange, then that Bitcoin is truly yours. Okay, and of course you track it, right? If you want to track it with the sheets that I use here on the show, you can go. Let's see if I have it on here. I'm gonna put a shortcut here in the chat. Stack sheet will take you to my stacking sheet that I have set up here for you guys. It's right here. And basically you can click up here where it says use template. And you can have a copy of the spreadsheet and you can track your buys and you can see what percentage gains you've done, right? Okay. Let's go back here. And yeah, that is how you can stack like crazy and build up your savings. Okay. Let's jump into the next topic of the show where I'm actually show you guys what we've been doing here on the show so far and how we've been doing. I show all the numbers, I show all the buys, I show all the status of each individual buy. So let's get started with that in the next segment that we like to call the Stack Recap, because we don't only talk about stacking Bitcoin here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. We actually do it every weekday. And there it is. In 2025, we've saved $4,400 into Bitcoin and accumulated 0.0469500 Bitcoin. That Bitcoin today is worth $5,483. Another way to look at this is I would need 24% more dollars to buy the same amount of Bitcoin today, because the purchasing power of the dollar is going down and continues to go down, right? In 2024, we saved the whole year. We DCA'd the whole year at least $20, sometimes $40, sometimes $80. But we did it consistently. It's all about consistency and sticking to your DCA schedule. We saved $7,345.47 and accumulated 0.122422217 Bitcoin. That Bitcoin today is worth $14,297 or a gain of about 94.64% just on savings that we did in 2024. Okay, that's not even a whole year away. Okay, we're about half a year away, I guess. Okay, but that is already pretty close to 100%. It's pretty close to doubling, right? It's crazy, right? So that's in 2024. And we tracked that year separately, but we started the show on May 22nd, 2023. And that is, Sorry, I'm going to change this real quick to make it match. May 22nd, 2023. And yeah, this is our full reserve for the show, our strategic Bitcoin reserve for the show. We've saved live during the streams here. We've bought about $15,229 worth of Bitcoin and accumulated 0.27666847 Bitcoin. That stack is worth $32,000 today. We've more than doubled our savings, right? Would you call this your savings skyrocketing? I would, right? Your savings skyrocketed 112%, right? And we're just getting started. We're just 2 years into this stack, right? The goal here is to hold it for at least 4 years. That's our minimum hold time. 4 years, a whole Bitcoin cycle. And even after we get to 4 years, we're probably not going to sell it anyway, because it's going to keep going up in value if everything stays the same. And everything does stay the same, right? The money printer is still going to be printing. Bitcoin is still going to be scarce, 21 million, right? And more people are going to want to get into Bitcoin. So everything is in place for the price of Bitcoin to continue to rise and the value of your savings to continue to skyrocket, right? Skyrocket to the stratosphere and then to the moon and beyond, right? Because of the way everything is working right now, the way the system is set up. Okay, there it is. We front ran the banks, the institutions, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. But there it is. Super simple. And then through other mechanisms we've done on the show to make it a little bit more fun, we're currently at 0.39593047 Bitcoin. I added these two details here yesterday. We are 0.00406,953 away from 0.4 Bitcoin. We're getting close. It's about $476.19 away from 0.4 Bitcoin. It'd be a high for the show, the highest amount of Bitcoin the show has held so far. I mean, I guess it always is the highest amount of Bitcoin we've held so far because we're buying every weekday. But there it is. That is the stack recap. Crazy time. Crazy. Oops. It's crazy, right? It's crazy to see the progress and the stack grow at this rate. And it's even crazier to think that we're only a little slightly over 2 years in. What do you think is gonna happen in another 2 years, right? When Bitcoin has another halving. Oh shoot, right? We're almost what are we? Are we a year and a half into the? We're a year and a half into the halving, right? Into the next halving. So we got two and a half years before the next halving, and that's gonna make Bitcoin even more scarce, right? It's crazy. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. All right. So there it is. Those are the stats. That's a stack recap. And since today the price of Bitcoin is above, of course, our average buy price in 2025 of 97,000, today we're going to purchase $20 worth of Bitcoin for the weekday DCA. Okay, there we go. Where's my thing? All right, now that we know how much Bitcoin we're going to buy, there's only one thing left to do. Time to stack some Bitcoin. All right, get my phone over here, get it ready. Oops. Log into my Strike app. Strike's been doing well. I mean, Strike's been functioning pretty good for me. It's been a champion. I'm gonna jump on Strike. Hit the buy button. Bam. Key in $20. Press next. Select my funding method. I'm ready to confirm. Cut the music. Drum roll, please, from the live Stack Bitcoin Show band. There he goes. Confirming. Buying $20 worth of Bitcoin right now on the Stack Bitcoin Show. And just like that, Bitcoin acquired, Bitcoin unlocked. $20 worth of Bitcoin. Adding 16,886 Satoshis to the stack. Oh, yeah. Oops. Come on. Right here. Today is 7/15/25. Dude, we're halfway through the month already? That's nuts. That's nuts. The price of Bitcoin we deserve today is $117,316.12 Bitcoin. Chee! And we bought $20 worth. That got us 0.000168886 Bitcoin. 16,886 Satoshis, if you want to look at it that way. And that's it. Our average buy price for 2025 is $92,896.35. We're going to take this data and put it into the strategic Bitcoin reserve sheet. It tracks all of our buys. Look at that. That's a proof of DCA right there. Okay. Let's see how close this gets us to 0.4 Bitcoin on our way to one whole Bitcoin. We're going to document the whole process, guys. We're going to document the purchasing, the stacking to one Bitcoin. Once we get to one Bitcoin, I don't know, I might end the show on a good note, right? And just retire and have the final episode be me on a me on a boat having an accident. All right? There it is. We are currently at 0.3960993 Bitcoin. We are $456 away from 0.4 Bitcoin. Crazy. Would you use your BTC as a collateral for a mortgage loan? That is a great question. Let's talk about that. Dang. Let's talk about that. Let's say that I had enough Bitcoin to cover the loan for mortgage for loan, yeah, like a home or something, collateral. Does it mean that they have to custody it, hard hodl? Like, would the bank have to custody it, or would it go like into some kind of escrow with like a three signature key, right? Those terms would be like, well, it would depend, you know. I don't think you should have to I don't think they should have to custody your Bitcoin. Like if I was let's say I had, and just pretend, I'm not saying I do have this, I don't have this, okay? Let's say I had 50 Bitcoin, right? And I wanted to buy a home, a sweet mansion, an hacienda, right? And I wanted to use my Bitcoin as collateral, right? But I didn't want to put my Bitcoin at risk, right? I have a job, right, which is a consistent income, and I have my 50 Bitcoin as proof that I have money, right? I doubt the place and let's say the place I'm gonna buy costs, I don't know, like $1 million, right? I guess it wouldn't be a hacienda. I guess it would be more like a shack in California. Say I'm buying a shack in California, really inland. They want something ridiculous like $1 million, right? Well, that's like what? Like 10 Bitcoin? Yeah, like 10 Bitcoins. So let's say I have 100 Bitcoins and I have 10, and I can collateralize 10. I can use 10 my Bitcoin to prove that I have enough to afford it, but I want to get financed. Well, I think it should be like two different levels. If I want to continue to custody my 10 Bitcoins that are collateral for that loan, maybe they charge me a higher interest rate because it's more risky for them, right? But if they're going to hold my 10 Bitcoins as collateral for me to make payments on this mortgage on this place I want to buy, then the interest rate better be super damn low, because holding my Bitcoin is it's no risk for them basically. Well, it is. Yeah, there's basically no risk, right? Those 10 Bitcoins are well worth over $1 million, right? And if I don't make my payments, they can keep my Bitcoin and sell it for more than $1 million. That's like zero risk for them, right? They should be paying me, right? So yeah, it would depend. It would depend. It would depend. Huddle. But in both scenarios, I probably would shy away from actually from from actually mortgaging and having them custody my coins. But if I was going to custody my coins, I'd be willing to pay a little bit of a higher interest rate because it's less risky for me. That'd be kind of cool. They don't have to worry about it, right? They would see that I'm good for the money. I have enough income and I have enough savings, right? That's what they do anyway when they issue you a mortgage on houses these days, right? Like it's even less. It's more risky for them to issue you a mortgage if you don't have Bitcoin, right? Like let's say you say, okay, show us your statements of income and show us your savings account in your bank, right? When you show them your savings account in your bank, when you're applying for a mortgage, they don't ask to hold your savings for you while you're paying the mortgage. They don't do that. They just say, okay, cool. You have money in your bank account. It's been there for a while, and you have X amount of you have. Let's say you have $100,000. You have $1 million in your bank account. We can see that you're good for $1 million. So we're gonna go ahead and issue you a debt. Oh no, actually more than that, right? We'd be good for like $10 million, right? I see that you have $10 million worth of cash in your bank account. We see that you're good for the money. Yeah, we're gonna issue you the debt. They're not gonna say, oh, we need to hold $1 million of your money in our custody to issue you $1 million debt, right? So why would they change the rules for Bitcoin, right? I can prove that I have 100 Bitcoins and that I'm good for $10 million or how much it's worth at that time. And so why? And that should be enough. Just like showing you that I have enough cash is enough, right? I can prove that I have other real estate that I own that's worth over $100 million, and why should I have to move that custody into your hands just to get a loan for $1 million, right? So they should treat it the same way they treat everything else, right? They shouldn't want to custody your coin, right? I think so as the more I'm thinking about it right now, Hard Hodl, the more I think it's just a grift for them to get your coins, and they can say like, oh, you were late on your payment, we liquidated your coins, sorry, right? And then they got your 10 Bitcoins, right? And then you can't ever get them back, right? So the more I think about it, Hard Hodl right now, like, nah, I wouldn't do that, right? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. And even taking the question one step back, why would I even want to mortgage something? Why would I want to mortgage something, right? Traditionally, you want to own real estate because you're going to own it eventually, right? But you're not, right? You're still on the hook for tax payments every year, regardless of whether you live in it or not, or whatever, right? You're still on the hook for insurance. You're still on the hook for repairs. It's too expensive to own real estate, right? And in the end, you don't even own it, right? Once you're done paying your mortgage, if you don't pay your taxes, it's not yours anymore, right? So is it a good way to save? No, right? And we did this chart the other day where we're looking at the difference between renting and between buying and renting, and how it's so expensive to buy, where you could just rent the equivalent space that you want to live in, not have to worry about any of the repairs, not have to worry about any of the insurance, not have to worry about any of the taxes on it. All you do is pay your rent, right? And then you take the difference between what you would have been paying for mortgage versus your rent. You stack that, and that alone is more powerful than owning, because the stuff that the Bitcoin that you're saving by renting is going to be worth more than if you were buying the property. Like I'm talking like real quick. Like I think we did the chart, and it was like 6 years, something like that, right? On one of our examples, it took like 6 years for you to break even. No, it took like 6 years for you to be doing better by saving in Bitcoin and renting than by having a mortgage and paying a little bit more for a mortgage to own, right? To lease forever, basically, because you're never going to own, like I said. Good question for sure, yeah. I also looked at Ledin. Yeah, I looked at Ledin too. I don't know. It looks good. But for the amount of Bitcoin I have, I don't think I can make big enough loans to make a difference. Like I don't see what I would loan out, what I would want to loan for. Does that make sense? I don't see what I would loan. I don't see what I would get a loan for that I would want to I don't know. so many options out there compared to a few. Oh, that's true. That's very true. They are building some good products out there for that. But yeah, I'm not ready to commit my stack to any custodial solutions that are gonna, right? Because if you look at it, with a simple rule of not your keys, not your cheese. As long as that stack is not in your wallet, it's not your Bitcoin, right? And you're susceptible at that point to all the stuff you've been immune from, right? Seizure of your assets, that company going out of business, right? Maybe they go out of business and they go declare for bankruptcy. Or how are you gonna get your coins back? How are you gonna get your Bitcoin back? They might say, oh yeah, when you went bankrupt, your coins are worth this much. We're gonna give you 80% of what they were worth when the company went out of business, but you're still SOL on your coins. Yeah, you're gonna get some money back, and maybe you take that money and buy some Bitcoin. You're never gonna have the same amount of Bitcoin again, right? Unless I want to full degen and just use a loan for more BTC. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Full degen. Yeah, that would be sick. That'd be sick. None of my interest rates on my credit card are more than 12%, so it's not quite worth it for me. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really good topic to go over, because I think more and more we're gonna start seeing more of these products, and it's all gonna come down to instead of follow the money, follow the Bitcoin, right? What do they want to do? It's just they're gonna come up with a bunch of clever ways to separate you from your Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin separation. That's what it's about. It's about making your Bitcoin their Bitcoin, right? And it's crazy. It's crazy. So good topic, Hard Huddle. I appreciate bringing that up. Literally leverage at 12%. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, for example, you can take out lines of credit without having your Bitcoin at risk at this point too, right? Like if you're gonna go full degen, right? Just live off your credit cards that have low interest rate, and stack your income, right? And then when you get to a certain point where you feel like, okay, I should pay off these cards, pay off your cards. You'll probably still do better saving in Bitcoin and just living off credit cards for a couple of months. I don't know. That's not financial advice. That's degen mode, full degen mode. Okay. All right, guys. That's all I got for you guys on today's on a Taco Tuesday. I'm gonna go see if my favorite tacos are in town. Get some of that. Maybe I'm not sure. I might do pizza today though. Pizza or tacos, but it's gonna be delish. All right, boys. Let me kick on the song and wrap this episode up. Good stuff, Hard Huddle. 1 million sats. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're still around. If not, no worries. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. Carl Black in the house. First comment of the evening. First like. Hard Huddle. Thanks for tuning in. Also, Carlos Aramillo. Thanks for tuning in. DCA to BTC. DCA to ATH. Okay. At $117,413 Bitcoin. Today we get to sign off, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode of the Stack Bitcoin Show. We'll be here stacking hard and taking it easy. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. But until then, remember, if you ain't stacking, you're slacking. Grab some tacos, guys. Later.